He told me he didn't want to be a burden. I gave everything I had. But when the truth came out, I had to decide, rage or justice. Every tear he cried, every word he whispered, all lies. My son faked being paralyzed, and now I have the proof. Welcome back to your ultimate destination for gripping revenge stories, family betrayals, shocking betrayals, and emotional justice. Subscribe now and join a community and tell us where you're watching from. Turn on the notification bell for our next story. Are you ready to witness the ultimate payback? Let's get started. The late afternoon sun spilled across Robert's study, glinting off the polished mahogany of his desk. He sipped his coffee, staring at a stack of invoices for nurses, therapists, and specialized equipment for his son, Jason. The man he had raised with care and love now seemed fragile, dependent, paralyzed, as Jason claimed. Robert's phone buzzed. A video call from Jason. He answered quickly. "Hi, Dad." Jason's voice was quiet, tinged with exhaustion. I didn't want to be a burden anymore. I can't walk. The doctors said." Robert cut in gently, though his voice carried worry. "Jason, I know. I've arranged everything. The best nurses, the therapy, whatever you need. You don't have to face this alone." Jason's eyes, wide and desperate on the screen, seemed to plead. "Thanks, Dad. I don't want to feel helpless." Robert nodded, swallowing the lump forming in his throat. "You won't. I promise. You'll have everything you need. Always." Weeks turned into months. Robert spent a fortune hiring caregivers, renovating Jason's home to accommodate a wheelchair, installing ramps, and arranging round-the-clock support. Every call, every message reinforced Jason's helplessness. "I can't move my legs," he'd whisper. "I don't want to bother anyone." Robert's heart ached with a mix of love and sorrow. He believed every word. He stayed awake at night, imagining his son trapped, vulnerable, and struggling. He ignored the whispers of doubt. He wanted to believe, to protect, to care. Then came the invitation to Jason's private gathering at his mansion. Robert hesitated. "He's throwing a party," he muttered to Margaret, his longtime housekeeper. "How can he, if he can't even walk?" Margaret frowned. "Sir, maybe it's just a small gathering. But you know something feels off." Robert shook his head. "No, Jason's fragile. He wouldn't risk anything. I'll go quietly check on him." When he arrived at the sprawling mansion, the sight that met him froze him in place. Music thumped through the halls. Laughter echoed from rooms he had imagined empty. Guests were everywhere, glasses raised, champagne flowing. And there, center of it all, was Jason, laughing, dancing, moving with a freedom that shattered every lie Robert had been told. Robert's hands trembled, heart pounding with shock and rage. The paralysis, the helplessness, it had been a lie. Every expense, every sleepless night, every act of care had been manipulated to fund this extravagant lifestyle. "Jason," Robert's voice was a blade of calm fury cutting through the noise. What is this?" Jason froze, caught mid-laugh. "Dad, I can explain." Robert's eyes narrowed, rage simmering beneath the surface. "Explain? You fake being paralyzed, so I'd pay for this? For your parties, your luxury, your lies?" Jason's face paled, a mix of guilt and defiance flashing across his features. I didn't want to be a burden. You didn't want to be a burden?" Robert's voice cracked, disbelief and fury entwined. "You've been living off my trust, my love, my sacrifices, all while laughing and drinking in my face." Margaret stepped back, silently witnessing the eruption of betrayal. Robert's mind raced, thoughts clashing between grief, fury, and the bitter sting of manipulation. Every moment he had spent caring, every dime he had given, every sleepless night, betrayed. The mansion's walls, once symbols of his son's vulnerability, now echoed with deceit and extravagance. Robert realized the path forward would be difficult, but one thing was clear. Jason's betrayal could not go unanswered. If someone you trusted faked weakness to manipulate you, how far would you go to confront the truth? Robert leaned against the grand staircase, staring at the chaos before him. The music still pulsed through the mansion, but all he could see was betrayal etched into every detail. Jason was laughing, raising a glass, effortlessly mingling with his friends, completely mobile. The paralysis, the helplessness, the sobs over the phone, it had all been a lie. Margaret, standing behind him, whispered cautiously, "Sir, are you okay? You look furious." Robert's hands clenched into fists, knuckles white. Furious doesn't even begin to cover it. He, my own son, played me for a fool. Months of lies, manipulations, lies about his health, all to fund this extravagance. He felt his chest tighten, a storm of grief and rage colliding violently. He had spent thousands on caregivers, on medical equipment, on therapy appointments that were completely unnecessary. Nights spent worrying, checking in, rearranging schedules, sacrificing his own health and peace, all for nothing. Jason noticed him at last, spotting the fury in his father's eyes. "Dad, I didn't mean." "Didn't mean?" Robert's voice was a whip, cutting through the room. "You pretended to be paralyzed, Jason. Every word you said, every tear you cried over the phone, it was all lies. Lies to steal from me, to live this life you couldn't earn yourself." Jason stammered, guilt and panic mingling. "Dad, I didn't want to be a burden." Robert shook his head, disbelief and anger twisting together. "A burden? You call months of deception a burden? Do you know how many nights I cried, worrying about you? How many times I canceled things, rearranged my life, spent money I didn't have, thinking you were helpless?" Margaret's hand rested gently on Robert's arm. "Sir, breathe. We need to stay calm. Think." Robert pulled away, pacing rapidly, each step echoing like a drumbeat of outrage. "Calm? How can I be calm? Every trust, every ounce of love I gave, has been mocked, manipulated, and used against me." He laughed in my face, while I paid for every aspect of his fake misery. He stopped, fists gripping the polished railing. His mind raced. Months of sacrifice, nights of sleeplessness, every legal contract for his son's care, it had all been a ruse. And now, staring at Jason, seeing him healthy, mobile, thriving off deceit, Robert's grief coiled tightly with fury, forming a plan, a reckoning. Jason tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. "Dad, I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean?" Robert echoed, his voice low and cold. "Do you hear yourself? You took my love, my trust, my resources, and turned them into your playground. You call that not being a burden? You've betrayed me in the worst way possible, and now it ends." Margaret, witnessing the intensity of Robert's wrath, whispered, "Sir, the breaking point is here. But it's also the moment to act strategically. Don't let rage blind you. Use this clarity. Plan." Robert's eyes narrowed, a calculated fire replacing the raw shock. He realized that this moment, this breaking point, was both an emotional climax and a call to action. Jason had pushed him to the edge, but from this edge, Robert could see the path forward, a strategy, a confrontation, a chance to reclaim control. He turned to Margaret, voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "We begin tonight. Every lie, every deception, Jason will answer for them. And I'll make sure he knows that trust, once broken, cannot be ignored. When the truth of betrayal hits like a hammer, do you let anger consume you, or turn it into the power to reclaim what's yours?" Robert sat alone in his office, the hum of the city outside mocking the storm inside him. The mansion, once a symbol of pride and family, now felt like a cage built on lies. Every memory of Jason's supposed suffering now stung with betrayal. Each photo on the walls, every voicemail of pleading or gratitude from Jason, was now a testament to manipulation. Margaret quietly entered, carrying a cup of tea. "Sir, you've been in here for hours. You need to rest, even for a moment. Your mind is racing too fast." Robert waved her off, his gaze fixed on the folders spread across his desk. Invoices for nurses, records of medical supplies, therapy bills, even the receipts for home modifications. All lies. All wasted. He rubbed his face, jaw tight. "Margaret," he faked it all. "Every call, every tear, every weakness, for months. I've been fooled. I've been used." Margaret's voice was gentle but firm. "Yes, sir. But now you know the truth. That gives you power. You can act. Carefully, strategically." Robert leaned back, staring at the ceiling, mind spinning. Rage had surged in the mansion tonight, and now it needed direction. The temptation was there, to storm in, yell, punish, but he knew that raw fury could ruin him as much as it could hurt Jason. He had to descend into the shadows of his own mind, confront his anger, and channel it into calculated action. He thought of all the sleepless nights, the canceled plans, the sacrifices he had made to support Jason. Every act of love had been weaponized against him. And yet, deep down, he realized this descent was not just about anger. It was about reclaiming control, dignity, and justice. Margaret approached, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Sir, we need a plan. Small steps. Observation. Evidence. Precision. You can't let this betrayal push you into reckless decisions." Robert nodded slowly, the first traces of clarity cutting through his storm of fury. "We need to understand him fully. His routines, his lies, his world. Every detail. That's the only way to confront him effectively and ensure he can't manipulate anyone again." He opened his laptop, cross-referencing bank statements, social media updates, and digital receipts. Every party Jason attended, every extravagant purchase, every lie about his health, all were recorded, documented. Robert felt a strange mixture of anger and satisfaction. He can't hide behind lies anymore. Margaret observed silently, knowing that this was the birth of strategic vengeance. Robert wasn't acting impulsively. He was observing, planning, descending into a controlled darkness where every decision would serve a purpose. He wasn't just angry. He was precise, methodical, relentless. Hours passed as Robert meticulously laid out timelines, comparing them to Jason's claims of immobility. Every inconsistency, every deceitful word, became a piece of the puzzle. Rage still simmered beneath the surface, but it was now tempered by strategy. The descent was complete, not into mindless fury, but into focused preparation for the reckoning to come. Finally, he leaned back, exhaling slowly. "We'll start small. Watch him, document everything, and test his reactions. One misstep, one lie, and he'll answer for it." Margaret gave a small, approving nod. "The hunt begins. You'll reclaim the truth, sir. And he'll finally see that betrayal comes with consequences." Robert's eyes glinted with resolve. The descent into darkness had forged a clear purpose: to confront Jason, expose his deceit, and reclaim both justice and dignity. When betrayal shakes you to your core, do you let it destroy you, or use it to craft a plan that ensures truth and justice prevail? The following days, Robert moved with quiet precision. Every action, every observation, was calculated. He didn't want confrontation yet, not openly, but he needed to test Jason, to watch him slip, to confirm the extent of the deception. Margaret kept close, her presence steady and reassuring. "Sir, remember, subtlety is key. If he senses that you know everything, he might cover his tracks further. Let's see what he does when he thinks you're unaware." Robert nodded, scanning the mansion. The nurses and caregivers he had hired were still present, but he watched their reactions carefully. Something about the way they moved, how they responded to Jason's requests, revealed cracks. He noted every discrepancy between Jason's claims and reality. When he could stand briefly, the slight limping he sometimes exaggerated, the ease with which he reached for objects supposedly out of reach. He decided to test him. "Jason," Robert called gently one afternoon, "I need you to help me carry these boxes to the storage room." Jason froze, glancing at the boxes with feigned apprehension. I don't think I can, Dad, you know." Robert smiled, soft but sharp. "I know you've been struggling, but Margaret and I are just here to help if needed. Just try, even a little." Jason hesitated, then slowly lifted one box. Margaret's eyes widened slightly, and Robert noted the slight smirk Jason tried to suppress. Caught in his own lie, he thought, heart racing. Later, he subtly monitored Jason's movements around the house. Late-night parties were hinted at by faint music seeping through walls, the scent of expensive perfumes, empty champagne bottles discreetly hidden behind furniture. Robert documented everything, quietly collecting proof, his rage now channeled into meticulous observation. Margaret whispered, "He's enjoying the freedom, isn't he? He believes he can still deceive you." Robert's jaw tightened. "Not for long. Every slip, every exaggeration, will expose it. And when we do, he won't be able to deny a single thing." Small, calculated interventions followed. A casually mentioned package delivery that never arrived, a question about a recent party he wasn't invited to, subtle notes left in plain sight that only Jason would notice. Each act tested his reactions, forcing cracks in his carefully constructed facade. As the days passed, Robert observed more. Guests who lingered suspiciously, deliveries of luxury items billed to his name, even invitations to extravagant events Jason never mentioned. Every detail strengthened Robert's resolve. The hunt was no longer about suspicion. It was about undeniable proof. One evening, Robert called Jason into the study under the pretense of discussing his health records. "Jason, let's review your therapy schedule and appointments," he said calmly, voice firm. Jason shifted nervously, trying to maintain composure. Margaret observed silently, a faint smile of approval on her face. The bait had been set, and Robert watched as his son's facade began to crumble under careful scrutiny. Robert's heart pounded, a mixture of anticipation and restrained fury. The betrayal was being confronted not with uncontrolled rage, but with strategy, precision, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Each day, each observation, brought him closer to the reckoning he had envisioned. When deception runs deep, do you strike blindly, or watch, wait, and let the truth emerge on its own? Robert had pieced together a timeline, cross-referenced bills, deliveries, and social media updates. Everything pointed to one undeniable conclusion. Jason had been living a lavish lifestyle at Robert's expense, all while pretending to be paralyzed. But the final confirmation came unexpectedly. Late one evening, Robert arrived at Jason's mansion under the guise of checking in on him. The front door was ajar, music faintly spilling out into the quiet street. He stepped inside cautiously. The scene that greeted him was surreal. Friends laughing loudly, waiters circulating trays of champagne, and Jason at the center of it all, dancing, moving freely, completely healthy. Robert's chest tightened. Every nurse he had hired, every dollar he had spent on therapy and specialized care, every sleepless night, betrayed. The rage inside him flared, but he forced it down, letting clarity and strategy guide him. Jason noticed him immediately, trying to freeze in place, a guilty smirk barely hidden. "Dad, I. Robert cut him off sharply, voice steady but icy. "Save it. I see everything now, Jason. The parties, the luxury deliveries, the elaborate lies, the entire charade." Jason's face paled. I didn't mean." "You didn't mean?" Robert echoed, disbelief twisting into fury. "Do you hear yourself? I trusted you. I spent money I didn't have, sacrificed sleep and health, because I believed in your struggle. And this is what I get." Margaret appeared quietly behind him, her presence calm but firm. "Sir, you have all the proof you need. This is the revelation." Robert's eyes scanned the room, witnessing not just Jason's deception, but the depth of his entitlement and cunning. He realized Jason had manipulated not only him, but everyone around him. Caregivers, friends, delivery services. Every smile and tear had been calculated, a performance designed to exploit trust. Jason swallowed, trying to regain composure. "Dad, I didn't want to be a burden." Robert's voice hardened. "A burden? Months of lies, of manipulation, and now you call that a burden? You've stolen from me, not just money, but trust, love, and time. Every sleepless night, every sacrifice, it was all for this." Margaret stepped closer, offering silent support as Robert absorbed the enormity of the deception. "Sir, now we know the truth. We can act, strategically and decisively." Robert's mind raced. The revelation was both a blow and a weapon. He had clarity now, every lie documented, every moment of deception recorded. He could confront Jason with undeniable proof, exposing him for the fraud he truly was. He glanced at his son, the anger in his chest coiled tightly, ready to strike, but measured. The temptation to explode in rage was strong, yet he restrained himself, knowing that strategy and control would yield a more decisive, satisfying outcome. Finally, Robert spoke, voice low and deliberate. "Jason, this stops now. Every lie, every manipulation, you will answer for it. And I will make sure the truth is seen, not just by me, but by everyone who trusted you." Jason's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of fear. He realized, finally, that his carefully constructed deception had crumbled. When lies and betrayal are exposed, do you lash out immediately, or use revelation as a weapon to reclaim justice and control? Robert retreated to his private study, the mansion buzzing behind him with the remnants of Jason's indulgent evening. The revelation weighed heavily on him, but beneath the fury, a clear thought had emerged. He could not confront Jason alone. He needed strategy, insight, and support. He needed Margaret. Margaret entered quietly, carrying a notebook. "Sir, I know what you're feeling. Betrayal, rage, disbelief. But we have to channel it. We can't let him slip through your fingers again." Robert looked at her, his eyes sharp. "Margaret, he's been living off my trust, manipulating everyone around him. I can't believe I didn't see it sooner. But now I need a plan. A calculated one. One that ensures he can't escape accountability." Margaret nodded. "We start small. Subtle interventions. Observations. We expose him piece by piece, while keeping him unaware that we know everything. That way, he cannot cover his tracks further." Robert's hands moved across the desk, organizing the files and receipts he had gathered. Every delivery, every expense, every event. Each was evidence of deception. "We need to time this perfectly," he said. "One misstep, one lie, and we confront him decisively. But until then, observation is key. We draw him out, and we document everything." Margaret leaned closer. "And you must remain calm. This isn't about rage, Robert. If you let anger guide your actions, you risk undermining the very control you now hold. Precision is everything." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle his storm. "You're right. Anger without strategy achieves nothing. We'll act with patience and calculation." He must understand the full scope of his betrayal, without being able to deny a single act. They began plotting, subtle hints left in plain sight, careful reminders that Robert was aware of every detail, and controlled questions designed to provoke reactions. Margaret suggested ways to observe Jason's behavior during social events, ensuring every misstep would be noted. "Each slip will tighten the net," Margaret said softly. "And when the time comes, you confront him with undeniable proof. He won't have a single defense." Robert leaned back in his chair, feeling a sense of focus he hadn't had since discovering the betrayal. "I've been angry, I've been hurt, but now I feel power. Not to punish blindly, but to reveal truth. To reclaim control. To protect myself and my resources from further exploitation." Margaret smiled faintly, recognizing the transformation. "Sir, you're no longer reacting. You're leading. And that's what will ensure justice is served." Robert allowed himself a rare, calm breath. The alliance was solidified, not just strategic, but emotional. Margaret had been his confidant, his observer, his ally. Together, they could expose Jason's deceit without stooping to the chaos of blind vengeance. As the night deepened, Robert reviewed every piece of evidence. Every detail of the luxurious lies Jason had built upon his father's generosity. Every false cry of pain, every fabricated limitation had been documented, and every misstep would be used to expose the betrayal fully. For the first time since the discovery, Robert felt a sense of purpose. The betrayal had not destroyed him. It had given him clarity. With Margaret's guidance, he was ready to step into the calculated confrontation, confident that truth, strategy, and moral authority were on his side. When betrayal runs deep, who could be your unexpected ally? And how far would you go to reclaim truth and justice? Robert had thought the alliance with Margaret would anchor him, keep his judgment steady. But the deeper he observed Jason, the more the temptation to act recklessly gnawed at him. Every lie, every hidden luxury, every careless smirk from his son fanned the fire inside. Late at night, in the quiet of the study, Robert stared at the evidence laid out before him. He had enough proof to confront Jason immediately, to humiliate him, to make him pay for months of manipulation. The thought was intoxicating, an immediate release for the rage simmering in his chest. Margaret's quiet presence broke the tension. "Sir, you need to remember why we started this. It's about truth, not revenge for its own sake." Robert clenched his fists, voice low and harsh. "I know, but every fiber of me wants to lash out, to make him feel every moment of betrayal I've endured. Months of sleepless nights, wasted money, my trust. He deserves to pay." Margaret placed a gentle hand on his arm. "And he will, strategically. But if you act now in blind anger, you risk compromising your position and your integrity. Don't become what you despise." Robert exhaled slowly, but the temptation persisted. He imagined confronting Jason in front of the staff, making him squirm, exposing every lie at once. The scenario thrilled and terrified him. The betrayal within himself, his desire to mirror his son's cruelty, was stronger than he had anticipated. For hours, he wrestled with it. Every scenario played out in his mind, each one more satisfying yet more dangerous than the last. Margaret's voice remained steady, guiding him back from the precipice. "Patience, Robert. Control is your weapon. Let him make a mistake. Then the truth will crush him without you losing yourself." Robert nodded, trying to suppress the rising urge. He realized that acting impulsively, driven by raw emotion, would tarnish the victory he sought. This was more than exposing Jason. It was a test of his own moral strength. Could he remain composed, strategic, and just? Or would the betrayal within consume him, turning his pursuit of truth into a personal vendetta? Hours turned into early morning as Robert documented every interaction, every small inconsistency in Jason's story. He replayed conversations, analyzed gestures, noted subtle slips in behavior. Each revelation was a small victory, each observation a reminder that patience could be more powerful than fury. Margaret watched quietly. "Sir, even the strongest hearts are tested. But the real test is whether you can resist the temptation to act impulsively, even when the betrayal is so personal." Robert's jaw tightened, eyes scanning the files once more. He knew she was right. The betrayal within, the desire to punish immediately, was dangerous, seductive, but he also knew he could resist it. By channeling his anger into calculated strategy, he could ensure the outcome would be complete, undeniable, and morally unassailable. Finally, he leaned back, a slow, deliberate exhale. We wait for him to slip. Every lie, every act of deceit will be documented. Then, and only then, does he face the consequences of his actions. Margaret nodded, silently acknowledging the transformation. Robert's fury remained, but it was tempered by wisdom and moral clarity. The betrayal within had tested him, but he emerged stronger, more precise, more patient, and more resolute than ever. When your own anger tempts you to betray your principles, can you resist, or will vengeance consume the very soul seeking justice? The evening air was tense as Robert arrived at Jason's mansion, Margaret at his side. This was it, the moment where deception would meet truth, where betrayal would face accountability. The evidence was irrefutable. Invoices, social media posts, photographs, witnesses, and subtle observations meticulously documented over weeks. Jason was lounging in the living room, music subdued but laughter still echoing faintly from distant rooms. He looked up, a mixture of surprise and nervous charm on his face. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Robert's eyes locked on his son, voice calm but razor sharp. "Jason, I came to see you, to understand how far your lies have gone, and to show you that deception has consequences." Jason's smirk faltered slightly. I can explain." Robert held up a folder thick with evidence. "Explain this?" "Every party, every luxury purchase, every delivery billed to me, all while pretending you couldn't walk. This is your explanation." Margaret stepped quietly behind Robert, reinforcing the authority in the room without a word. Jason shifted uneasily. The facade he had maintained for months, the helplessness, the vulnerability, was unraveling before his father's steady gaze. "I trusted you," Robert continued, voice low but resonant. "I spent money I didn't have, sacrificed sleep, rearranged my life, all because I believed in your suffering. And you used it to fund this extravagant life? You lied to me every day, every week, every month." Jason's face paled. "Dad, I didn't want to be a burden." Robert shook his head, fury tempered with control. "A burden? You manipulated me, deceived me, and abused my trust. That's not a burden. That's betrayal. And now, you face the truth." He placed the folder on the table, sliding photographs, invoices, and receipts toward Jason. Each piece told a story of lies and indulgence. Jason's eyes widened as he realized the depth of exposure. There was no hiding, no excuse. "You have two choices," Robert said, voice steady and commanding. "Own up to your actions, accept accountability, and work to repair the trust you've shattered, or deny it, continue your lies, and face the consequences of complete exposure and permanent estrangement." Jason's gaze flickered between the folder, his father, and Margaret. The weight of undeniable truth pressed down on him. He realized the manipulations he had relied on for months. The false sympathy, the calculated tears, the lies of helplessness had all been stripped away. Robert's chest rose and fell slowly. The months of planning, observation, and strategic patience had led to this moment. He had resisted the temptation to lash out recklessly, choosing precision over rage. And now, the reckoning was absolute. Finally, Jason swallowed hard, voice trembling. "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how far I had gone. I'll make it right. Please, I don't want to lose you." Robert studied him for a long, deliberate moment. The first step is acknowledgement. The second step is honesty in every action moving forward. Anything less, and the consequences will be permanent. Margaret gave a subtle nod of approval. Robert had achieved more than confrontation. He had maintained his integrity, ensured accountability, and forced the betrayer to face the truth fully. The room fell silent, the hum of the city outside reminding them both that life moved forward, even after betrayal. The reckoning had been delivered, not with uncontrolled fury, but with calculated justice, moral authority, and undeniable clarity. When lies are laid bare, do you confront them with rage, or with strategy, integrity, and undeniable truth? The mansion was quiet now. Jason sat across from Robert, his shoulders slumped, eyes downcast. The reckoning had passed, and the weight of truth hung heavily in the room. Margaret lingered nearby, a steady presence that had guided Robert through weeks of observation, planning, and confrontation. Robert let out a slow breath, feeling the tension of the past months finally ease. The rage that had threatened to consume him was still there, but it was tempered by clarity, strategy, and moral victory. He had faced betrayal, resisted the urge to act impulsively, and delivered justice without compromising his own integrity. Jason lifted his head, voice quiet and tentative. "Dad, I understand now. I see what I've done and I'm sorry. I was selfish, deceitful. I lied about everything. I don't want to lose your trust." Robert studied him carefully. The apology was there, genuine and heavy with regret. "Jason, acknowledging the truth is the first step. You've betrayed my trust, my love, and my sacrifice. But this is also an opportunity. If you choose honesty, accountability, and change, there is a path forward." Margaret spoke softly, reinforcing the bridge toward reconciliation. "Sir, he has seen the consequences of his actions. Now it's up to him to prove he's willing to rebuild, not just say the right words." Robert nodded. "Yes, trust is earned, not given. And rebuilding it will take time, effort, and complete transparency." Jason swallowed hard, the weight of his choices settling on him. "I'll do everything I can, Dad. I promise." The room was filled with a quiet, reflective energy. Robert walked slowly to the window, looking out at the city lights flickering in the distance. He thought about the months of deception, sleepless nights, wasted resources, and emotional strain. And yet, he felt a strange sense of peace. He had navigated betrayal, controlled his impulses, and maintained his moral compass. Turning back, he saw Jason and Margaret, both waiting, both part of the new reality forged from harsh truths. Robert realized that while the journey had been painful, it had also been transformative. He had grown stronger, more patient, and wiser. His capacity for discernment, resilience, and strategic thinking had been tested and proven. He finally spoke, voice calm but firm. "Jason, you've been given a chance to make amends. Remember, every action from this moment forward will define whether we can rebuild what was broken. The past cannot be erased, but the future can be shaped, honestly, responsibly, and with integrity." Jason nodded, tears glistening. "I understand, Dad. I won't waste this chance." Margaret smiled faintly, acknowledging the balance that had been restored. The alliance that had guided Robert through the storm had succeeded. Truth had triumphed, justice had been served, and the betrayal that once threatened to destroy everything had been confronted with precision, patience, and moral clarity. As Robert looked around the mansion, he felt a profound sense of relief and cautious hope. The betrayal had left scars, but it had also revealed strength, resilience, and the potential for redemption. He knew the road ahead would be careful and measured, but for the first time in months, he believed that trust and family could be rebuilt. When betrayal cuts deep, can you confront the truth, enforce justice, and still leave room for redemption? Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.